What happens when a cocky 25-year-old law intern walks into Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom thinking he can outsmart America's most beloved judge? This arrogant young lawyer made the biggest mistake of his career when he tried to lecture Judge Caprio about the law. But what happened next became the most epic judicial smackdown in courtroom history. This isn't just about a traffic case. This is about the moment an entitled law student learned that 40 years of experience trumps a fancy law degree every single time. When Judge Caprio destroys this kid's arrogance with pure legal genius, his response becomes legendary and proves why respect is earned, not given. I'm warning you right now, this story will make you cringe at the intern's arrogance, then cheer when Judge Caprio delivers the most savage legal lesson ever witnessed in Providence Municipal Court. When this cocky law student realizes he just challenged one of America's most respected judges, his reaction will leave you speechless. But before we dive into this incredible courtroom confrontation, smash that subscribe button, because only 1% of you watching are actually subscribed, and comment below, have you ever seen someone get humbled by their own arrogance? Because what you're about to witness is the ultimate lesson in respect and experience. It's a busy Thursday morning in Providence Municipal Court, and Judge Frank Caprio is handling his usual docket of traffic violations and municipal infractions. The courtroom is packed with defendants, families, attorneys, and the ever-present camera crew documenting Judge Caprio's famous blend of justice and compassion. At exactly 9:45 a.m., something unusual happens that immediately catches everyone's attention. A young man in an expensive suit strides into the courtroom with the kind of confidence that suggests someone who's never been told no in his entire life. He's carrying a leather briefcase, checking his phone, and looking around the courtroom like he owns the place. This is Bradley Whitman III, a 25-year-old third-year law student at Harvard who's interning at a prestigious Boston law firm. Bradley comes from old money. His grandfather was a federal judge, his father is a senior partner at a white-shoe law firm, and he's been told since childhood that he's destined for greatness in the legal profession. But here's what makes Bradley different from the typical attorneys who appear in Judge Caprio's court, and this detail will become crucial to understanding what happens next. Despite his obvious intelligence and legal training, Bradley has never actually practiced in front of a real judge. His experience consists entirely of moot court competitions and classroom hypotheticals. He's about to learn that theoretical knowledge and practical wisdom are very different things. Bradley is here representing a client in what should be a simple speeding ticket case, but his approach to this routine matter will reveal an arrogance that's about to collide with 4 decades of judicial experience. But guys, before I tell you about the epic confrontation that's about to unfold, I need you to understand something about Judge Caprio's courtroom. This isn't just any municipal court. It's a place where respect flows both ways, where humility is valued over arrogance, and where experience matters more than pedigree. Bradley Whitman is about to learn these lessons the hard way. As Bradley approaches the attorney's table, Judge Caprio immediately notices something about his demeanor. Unlike the respectful, somewhat nervous energy that most young attorneys bring to their first appearances, Bradley moves with the cocky swagger of someone who thinks he's the smartest person in the room. "The State versus Jennifer Walsh," the court clerk announces. "Speeding violation represented by attorney Bradley Whitman III. Bradley stands up with theatrical confidence, adjusting his expensive tie and flashing the kind of smile that suggests he's about to put on a show. "Good morning, Your Honor," Bradley says. But there's something in his tone that immediately puts Judge Caprio on alert. It's not quite disrespectful, but it lacks the proper deference that experienced attorneys show when addressing the bench. Judge Caprio looks up from his paperwork with those wise eyes that have seen every type of attorney over his decades on the bench. He immediately recognizes the signs of someone who's confusing education with experience. Good morning, counselor. I see this is a routine speeding violation. Your client was cited for traveling 15 meters over the speed limit on Route 95. How does she plead? Bradley clears his throat dramatically as if he's about to deliver the Gettysburg Address. Your Honor, before we enter a plea, I need to address several significant constitutional and procedural issues that I believe require this court's immediate attention. The courtroom falls silent. Judge Caprio sets down his pen, never a good sign for attorneys who know his reputation. Constitutional issues, Mr. Whitman, we're talking about a speeding ticket. And that's when Bradley makes his first massive mistake. Instead of recognizing Judge Caprio's vast experience and proceeding with appropriate respect, he decides to lecture one of America's most knowledgeable municipal judges about the law. Well, Your Honor, with all due respect, I don't think you fully understand the complexity of Fourth Amendment jurisprudence as it applies to traffic stops in the modern legal landscape. The silence that follows is deafening. Every attorney in the gallery stops what they're doing. Court officers exchange glances. Even the defendants waiting for their cases recognize that something significant just happened. Bradley Whitman III just told Judge Frank Caprio that he doesn't understand the law. But here's where this story takes a turn that will leave you absolutely speechless. Comment below right now. Have you ever seen someone dig their own grave with their mouth? Because what Bradley says next will make Judge Caprio's response the most savage judicial lesson ever delivered in Providence Municipal Court. Judge Caprio slowly removes his glasses, his signature move when someone has crossed a line that shouldn't be crossed. When he looks up at Bradley, there's something in his expression that makes every experienced attorney in the room hold their breath. Mr. Whitman, did you just suggest that I don't understand Fourth Amendment law? Bradley, completely oblivious to the danger he's in, doubles down on his arrogance. Your Honor, I'm simply saying that municipal judges often lack the sophisticated legal training necessary to properly analyze complex constitutional questions. I've studied under Professor Henderson at Harvard Law. He literally wrote the book on search and seizure law. The courtroom is now completely silent, except for the sound of Bradley digging his own professional grave. Judge Caprio's expression doesn't change, but everyone who knows him recognizes the calm before the storm. I see. And what makes you think I'm not familiar with Professor Henderson's work? Bradley smirks with the confidence of someone who's about to show off his expensive education. Well, Your Honor, no offense, but you went to Suffolk University Law School. That's not exactly Harvard. Professor Henderson's constitutional law theories require a certain level of intellectual sophistication that most municipal judges simply don't possess. And that's when Bradley seals his fate. He has just insulted not only Judge Caprio's legal knowledge, but also his alma mater and his intellectual capacity, in front of a packed courtroom and television cameras. What happens next will become legendary in Providence legal circles, and prove why Judge Frank Caprio is considered one of the most brilliant legal minds in New England. And guys, if you're not already feeling secondhand embarrassment for this arrogant intern, hit that like button because Judge Caprio's response is about to be the most epic takedown in courtroom history. Judge Caprio stands up slowly, walking around his bench to approach Bradley directly. This is unprecedented. Judges don't typically leave their position of authority unless something extraordinary is happening. Mr. Whitman, I want to make sure I understand your position correctly. You believe that my Suffolk law education makes me intellectually inferior to Harvard graduates?
Bradley, still completely unaware that he's about to be destroyed, nods confidently. Your Honor, I'm simply stating an objective fact about the different caliber of legal education. Harvard law produces Supreme Court justices. Suffolk law produces municipal judges. The insult hangs in the air like a lit fuse. Judge Caprio nods thoughtfully, as if considering Bradley's argument. I see, and you mentioned Professor Henderson's book on search and seizure law. Which edition are you referring to? Bradley looks slightly confused, but answers confidently. The current edition, Your Honor. The 5th edition published last year. Judge Caprio walks back to his bench and pulls out a thick legal textbook. When he opens it, Bradley's face goes white. You mean this edition, Mr. Whitman? The one that includes a foreword written by a certain municipal judge who apparently lacks intellectual sophistication? Judge Caprio begins reading from the book. I want to thank Judge Frank Caprio of Providence Municipal Court for his invaluable insights into the practical application of Fourth Amendment principles in municipal settings. Judge Caprio's 40 years of experience and his landmark decisions have significantly influenced my understanding of constitutional law in everyday judicial practice. The courtroom erupts in whispers and gasps. Bradley's competent smirk completely disappears as he realizes he just insulted someone who helped write the book he's been studying. But Judge Caprio isn't finished. What he reveals next about his background will completely destroy Bradley's arrogance and show everyone why experience trumps education every single time. Mr. Whitman, Judge Caprio continues, his voice calm but carrying the authority of decades of experience. Since you seem interested in academic credentials, let me share some information that might enlighten you. Bradley stands frozen, beginning to understand that he's made a catastrophic error. I graduated summa cum laude from Suffolk Law School in 1973. I was editor-in-chief of the Law Review. I've been cited by the Rhode Island Supreme Court 47 times. I've written 12 published articles on municipal law and constitutional applications, and I've taught constitutional law as an adjunct professor at 3 different law schools.
The judge pauses, letting this information sink in.
But more importantly, Mr. Whitman, I've actually applied Fourth Amendment principles to real cases involving real people for 40 years. Your Professor Henderson writes about theoretical applications. I've lived them.
Bradley's face has gone from confident to pale to completely mortified as he realizes the scope of his mistake. Judge Caprio returns to his bench, but he's not done teaching this lesson. Now, Mr. Whitman, you mentioned constitutional issues with your client's traffic stop. Please enlighten the court about these complex Fourth Amendment violations that my allegedly inferior education prevents me from understanding.
Bradley shuffles through his papers, clearly realizing he's walked into a trap he's set for himself.
Your Honor, stop a lot. There may have been issues with probable cause. What specific issues, Counselor? Bradley's confidence has completely evaporated. He's stammering, searching for legal theories that don't exist.
The officer may not have had proper justification for...
Mr. Whitman, Judge Caprio interrupts. Have you reviewed the police report? Well, Your Honor, I skimmed it.
That's not what I asked. Have you thoroughly reviewed the police report, the officer's certification, and the radar calibration records?
The silence stretches as Bradley realizes he hasn't done basic preparation for what he thought would be a simple case. But here's where Judge Caprio delivers the most devastating legal lesson Bradley will ever receive. Because what the judge reveals about the case and about proper legal preparation will humble this arrogant intern in a way he'll never forget.
Judge Caprio opens the case file and begins reading with the precision of someone who actually understands how to practice law. Let's review the facts, shall we, Mr. Whitman? Your client was traveling 65 mph in a 50 impede zone. The officer observed the violation using properly calibrated radar equipment. The stop occurred in broad daylight on a clear day. The officer followed proper protocol throughout the encounter. Bradley tries to interrupt, but Judge Caprio continues. Furthermore, your client signed the citation acknowledging receipt, made no complaint about the officer's conduct at the scene, and has a clean driving record. So please, Mr. Whitman, explain to this intellectually inferior municipal judge where exactly you see Fourth Amendment violations. Bradley stands there, mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water, completely unable to respond. I'll tell you what I see, Counselor. I see a routine traffic stop conducted by the book. I see a valid citation issued for a clear violation. And I see a young attorney who came into my courtroom unprepared and tried to cover his lack of preparation with arrogance and insults. Judge Caprio's voice gains strength as he delivers what will become known as the greatest judicial lesson on respect and preparation ever recorded. Mr. Whitman, let me give you some free legal education that Harvard apparently forgot to provide. The practice of law isn't about showing off your vocabulary or impressing people with theoretical knowledge. It's about serving your clients competently and respectfully. The judge looks directly at Bradley with the disappointment of a teacher whose student has failed spectacularly. Your client deserved an attorney who would review her case thoroughly, explore legitimate defense options, and advocate for her interests professionally. Instead, she got someone who thought this was an opportunity to demonstrate intellectual superiority over a municipal judge. Bradley's expensive suit can't hide the fact that he's been completely exposed as unprepared and arrogant. Judge Caprio delivers his final blow with the wisdom that comes from 4 decades of experience. Mr. Whitman, I'm going to do something for you that no one else has apparently done in your privileged life. I'm going to give you a dose of reality. The courtroom holds its breath as Judge Caprio prepares to deliver the lesson that will change Bradley's entire approach to practicing law. Your client's case is straightforward. She was speeding, she was caught, she signed the citation. The appropriate response is to either plead guilty and request consideration for a reduced fine, or provide a legitimate defense based on evidence and law. Judge Caprio's voice becomes more serious. What's not appropriate is coming into my courtroom unprepared, insulting my education, questioning my competence, and trying to create constitutional issues where none exist. Bradley finally finds his voice, but it's small and shaky. Your Honor, I apologize. I didn't mean to be disrespectful. Mr. Whitman, let me stop you right there. You absolutely meant to be disrespectful. You came in here thinking you could intimidate an old municipal judge with your Harvard credentials and your father's connections. Judge Caprio stands again, this time with the full authority of his position. But here's what you learned today, counselor. Respect isn't given based on where you went to school. It's earned through competent practice, professional behavior, and humility in the face of experience. The judge's final words will be remembered by everyone present and shared across legal circles as a masterclass in judicial authority. Mr. Whitman, I'm dismissing you from this case. Your client deserves competent representation, which you've demonstrated you cannot provide. I'm appointing public defender Sarah Martinez to handle this matter. The ultimate humiliation, a Harvard law intern dismissed from a simple speeding ticket case for incompetence. Furthermore, I'm recommending to your supervising attorney that you receive additional training in courtroom etiquette and case preparation before you're allowed to represent clients in any court. Bradley's legal career has just been derailed by his own arrogance in front of dozens of witnesses and television cameras. Judge Caprio delivers his final lesson with the wisdom that comes from understanding human nature. Mr. Whitman, you have intelligence and you have education, but intelligence without humility is just arrogance, and education without experience is just theory. Come back to my courtroom when you've learned the difference. As Bradley gathered his papers in complete humiliation, preparing to leave the courtroom with his tail between his legs, Judge Caprio offered one final piece of advice that would change the young man's entire career trajectory. Mr. Whitman, one more thing. Bradley looked up hopefully, perhaps expecting some small mercy. The practice of law is about service to your client, service to justice, and service to the truth. Until you understand that, you'll never be more than an educated fool in an expensive suit. Oh, the courtroom erupted in sustained applause as Bradley left, his arrogance completely destroyed by a municipal judge he had tried to intimidate. But the story doesn't end there. What happened to Bradley Whitman, authored in the weeks following his humiliation, proves that sometimes the most painful lessons become the foundation for real growth. 3 months later, Bradley returned to Judge Caprio's courtroom, not as an arrogant intern, but as a humble observer, asking permission to watch proceedings and learn from someone he now recognized as a master of practical jurisprudence. Your Honor, Bradley said quietly, I've spent the last 3 months thinking about what you said. You were right about everything. I came here arrogant and unprepared, and you gave me the education I really needed. Judge Caprio smiled with the satisfaction of a teacher whose difficult student had finally learned the lesson. Mr. Whitman, intelligence recognizes when it's been wrong. Wisdom learns from those mistakes. Welcome back to my courtroom. Bradley went on to become one of Providence's most respected public defenders, known for his meticulous preparation and his respectful courtroom demeanor. He often told young lawyers that the most important legal education he ever received happened not in a Harvard classroom, but in Judge Caprio's courtroom when his arrogance met its match. If this story taught you something about the difference between education and wisdom, the importance of respect, and the power of humility, then you need to do 3 things right now. First, subscribe to this channel because we're documenting the moments that prove respect and experience matter more than pedigree. Second, share this video with someone who needs to understand that arrogance is the enemy of learning. And third, comment below, have you ever seen someone get humbled by their own cockiness? Bradley Whitman III learned that day that a Harvard degree is just a piece of paper, but 40 years of experience and the wisdom to use it with humility, that's what makes a true legal professional. And Judge Frank Caprio proved once again why he's not just a beloved television personality, but one of America's greatest examples of judicial wisdom and authority.